Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Gladstone Camp Meeting Health Seminar. I'm Natalia Parra, and it's a privilege for me to be here with you. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. This afternoon, we have Dr. Vasquez with me, and like I said, it's a privilege for me to introduce you to her. Dr. Vasquez, is originally from Venezuela, but she graduated from the Adventist University in Argentina with family medicine as a family doctor. She then continued her education here in Oregon with natural medicine. So she comes to us today with a perfect balance of both worlds, alternative medicine and conventional medicine. So I hope you enjoy and you get ready for today's message. She has the knowledge of both worlds, like I said. Besides being a doctor, she's also working and helping her husband, Pastor Juan Pacheco, in the Hispanic Ministry in Hillsboro. And also in Hillsboro, she has her private clinic, Natural Hope. So I hope you enjoy our message today, get some notes, and let's learn together about obesity and stress.
Thank you for choosing to be here. I am Patricia Vasquez. I am a medical doctor, but also a naturopathic doctor. I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist, hearing all the time about the natural remedies and the cause of diseases. That's why I went to medical school, to find the science behind the natural remedies. But after I finished medical school, I felt that I needed some more answers. So that led me to went to naturopathy school. I want to show you a slide. We are used to Western medicine that look at the group of the symptoms first. As you can see in the picture, that represents the branches and the leaves, which usually results in a disease diagnosis. Often this diagnosis is associated with a drug or drugs that can be prescribed to treat this group of symptoms. And that is the end of the story. But this approach forget to look at the cause of the disease that is only found in the roots, the soil, and the trunk of the tree, as you can see in the slide. It treats all the patients that present with similar symptoms the same and completely forget to look the cause of the disease for each patient. I like a quote from the book, The Ministry of Healing, that says, "The only hope of better things is in the education of the people in right principles. Let physicians teach the people that restorative power is not in drugs, but in nature. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained, and healthful conditions should be changed, wrong habits corrected. The nature is to be assisted in her effort to expel impurities and to reestablish right conditions in the system." I love this quote. And it seems like we have forgotten about this. We have forgotten to find the cause. We have come to believe that we need only prescription medications to manage our diseases forever. Don't get me wrong. Prescription medications is a blessing. I am not against using this medication. It has its place and it has its time. But we don't have to forget that every disease has a real cause and we need to find it. Like the prophecy said, in the last days, science will grow. And as a doctor, I can see this clearly happening through my eyes. Now science can back our philosophy of health. Every day, more and more studies show how our body functions and what our body needs in order to heal and restore. This type of medicine has been around for a while, and nowadays it's called functional medicine. Doctors of every type of practice, we've come together to gather information that science is providing, and we are using it to help patients to find the cause of the disease and treat the root of their own diseases. During these 4 days, we are going to talk about the common causes of disease. And today we are going to start with the stress and obesity. It should be said, the opinions expressed in this program are for educational and informational purposes only and are not intended for diagnosis, treatment, or as a substitute for professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or other healthcare professional for your specific healthcare and or medical needs or concerns. Nowadays, we are living in the middle of a pandemic of COVID-19, but at the same time, we are living with another silent pandemic called obesity. Overweight and obesity are major risk factors for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, metabolic syndrome, lung disease, and much more. These diseases are the most commonly reported health conditions that predispose individuals with COVID-19 infection to require hospitalization, including intensive care unit admissions. This is why it is so relevant and important to talk about this and to find the causes. On the other hand, 95% of all diseases are caused or worsened by the stress. 75 to 90% of all medical visits are related to stress-related conditions. So let's start with the definition of stress. Stress is any stimulus that triggers the survival mode. Though we have come to think of stress as something we feel when we are under emotional pressure, a response to feel busy, to overwhelmed with duties, and the rush of modern life, the earliest definition of the word is stress, including anything that would trigger survival mode. This trigger includes physical, environmental stress, dietary stress, and mental stress. So to understand how many different factors can add up and push our bodies to create fat, therefore it is important to think of stress in this broader way. When we talk about stress, immediately we talk about hormones and the endocrine system. The endocrine system, as you see in the slide, is a series of glands everywhere in our body. And these glands produce and secrete hormones that the body uses for a wide range of functions. These hormones are chemical messengers that talk with every organ so they can function. These control many different bodily functions, including respiration, metabolism, reproduction, sensory perception, movement, sexual development, growth, and much more. Hormones are produced by glands and sent into the bloodstream to the various tissues in the body. They send signals to those tissues to tell them what they are supposed to do. When the glands do not produce the right amount of hormones, diseases develop that can affect many aspects of life. So I like to explain hormones through the broken telephone game. Have you ever played this game? It is so much fun. I love it. It is a game where you come up with a phrase and then you whisper it into the ear of the person sitting next to you. Next, this person has to whisper what he or she hears in the next person's ear. This continues in the circle until the last person has heard the phrase. Whatever you hear, you pass along the best you can to the next person. When the phrase comes around the last person in the circle, he or she said it out loud. The game finishes by comparing the original phrase to what the last person heard and said. Most of the time, the results are very funny and nothing to do with the original. The same happens with hormones. If one hormone gave the wrong message, all the other hormones will be affected. And this concept is very important to understand. I'm going to repeat it again. If one hormone gave the wrong message, all the others will be affected. So, thanks God, our bodies were designed to respond to a crisis, like the sudden arrival of a tiger with a burst of hormones in our body, like the cortisol, as you can see in the slide, and adrenaline hormones. And there are two reasons for this. First, put glucose in your muscles so you can fight or you can run. And secondly, to increase blood pressure so that a lot of fresh oxygen reaches your brain and you can think clearly. This is the process behind fight or flight. So how does this happen? Our body sends the stimulation of stress. The hypothalamus, that is the master gland that modulates stress, that is in our brain, will send a hormone that stimulates the pituitary gland, that is another gland that is in our brain, and this will stimulate the adrenal glands that you have located up top your kidneys to release a surge of adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones will activate the sympathetic system, our survival mode. As you can see, we activate the sympathetic system with a green light. Under stress, we will have our survival mode on through the sympathetic system. And we will have our digestive and healing mode off through the parasympathetic system. How does this feel in our body? When fight or flight is active, your muscles tense, your heart rate increases, your pupils dilate, blood flow is restricted to many parts of your body, digestion in your stomach and upper intestinal tract slows or stops completely, and your breathing speeds up faster and shorter. This incredible fight or flight response is a physiological reaction that occurs in response to a perceived danger, damaging event, attack, or threat to survival. So we are grateful to God because we have this mechanism of stress in our body. So stress is part of our life. It is not a bad thing in itself. Under normal conditions, your body produces a brief surge of cortisol. The sympathetic system gets activated, accompanied by a lessening of the parasympathetic tone that we said before, that is the digestion and healing mode. This response is beneficial and protective. The stress reaction is an appropriate alarm. Maybe a friend has a medical emergency or their home was broken into. Once you respond and deal with the situation, your cortisol should return to normal levels. Your sympathetic activation, as you see in the slide, diminishes, and the parasympathetic has a rebound, and everything returns to normal. So that is great. This is how it should happen. The problem is that so many people, we are in the survival mode forever and never goes off. Too many of us struggles with symptoms of relentless stress, hypervigilance. So we are going to talk about the stressor source in our body. The first one that we are going to mention is the processed food. Processed food are high in fructose, corn syrup, salt, and additives, and much more. The modern diet differs in many ways from diets of the past. Of all the differences, the most significant may be the rate at which modern foods are absorbed. After chewing in the mouth and swallowing, food moves to our stomach, where acids digest it into smaller parts. Then the small intestine carries the nutrients along until they are absorbed into the bloodstream. With whole foods high in fiber, this absorption will take like 6 to 8 hours. But today's processed foods lack in fiber, high in fructose syrup, can be absorbed in as little as 60 to 90 minutes. The problem with fast absorption is that your body has to do a hormonal juggling act to manage your blood sugar levels. And this situation pushes your body into survival mode. That we said before is going to trigger the surge to cortisol and adrenal hormones. So the next is the environmental pollutants. Along with our increased consumption of processed foods, the numerous pollutants we are exposed to daily can trigger our bodies to go into survival mode. This environmental pollutant can be found in our air, water, leach from the containers that we use in the kitchen, leach from the plastic bottle, even with the artificial light. Since 1900, over 3 million synthetic chemicals have been released into the world, and we don't even know those weird words. Each day we eat and breathe in thousands of them without knowing it. Many of these chemicals are formally categorized as obesogens, meaning that they are known to cause obesity, even in those who are not overeating. The increase in the number of chemicals we are exposed to daily and the amount of that exposure both coincide with the onset of population-wide weight gain. Key toxins include heavy metals such as lead or mercury, solvents, pesticides, herbicides, plastic byproducts. These chemicals are known to hurt the adrenal gland and change how our genes work. Many of these chemicals build up in our fat tissue, and since they are hard to process, they keep the fat locked in place and are seemingly impossible to get rid of. One substance that is shown to cause weight gain is a plastic byproduct called bisphenol A, and is very, very common around us. We can find it in the plastic bottles that we used to buy at Costco, those big, right? And the plastic containers where we are storage food in our kitchen. So light pollution, we live in a world where every day it becomes very difficult to see the stars. Like New York City, the city that never sleeps. Our ability to control our weight depends on deep sleep. It is during the night from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. that our liver does the job of detoxifying our body from the toxins that we have been exposed to during the day. It is also the time when the brain detoxifies all these toxins. This is why it is so important that we go to sleep before 10 p.m. If we don't do this one day, it's no problem. But the problem is that we make a habit of going to sleep late. So the other one is the pressure of modern life. Even though our lives are rarely in danger, our days are filled with constant stressors that take the form of an emails, several text messages, deadlines, calls, and distractions. We also face more frequent major stressors, right? We are in the middle of a pandemic. We are distant with our family, with our friends, from church. Nothing is the same as before. So the pressure is real and we all feel it. But can it directly cause weight gain? This was the question asked in a study of 54,000 women who were tracked over 15 years. Those with the highest stress loads gained the most weight. Other factor to consider is that pressure changes our appetite. There was another study where stress levels were compared to food choices in each participant. Those with the greatest cortisol disruption, remember we have been talking about the cortisol, right? So those with the greatest cortisol disruptions were the ones who ate the most chocolate cake and the least amount of vegetables. So the last one, but not least, because we are going to talk about this one in other presentations, maybe tomorrow or in 2 days, is the hidden infections. This one is really important. Many of us suffer from intestinal ailments that we get used to living like this or to solving it with antacid or laxatives. Many times these symptoms are a manifestation of infections hidden in our body that we must take into account. But we will delve into these topics in 2 days. So, we have the chronic stress response. We are exposed to so many stressors that the sympathetic response is more intense. The system as a whole may fail to reset to normal functioning, remaining tuned to excess sympathetic and deficient parasympathetic activation. This state may persist indefinitely, giving rise to a state of chronic stress where the system responds inappropriately to environmental challenge with excess activation. So, hormones production and the effect of stress. We talk about how this high cortisol now is in a chronic state. Many of the common sex hormones in the body are originally derived from cholesterol, which your body turns into pregnenolone, as we see in the slide. Pregnenolone is the mother hormone from which other hormones are made. And the normal, calm circumstances in your adrenal glands, pregnenolone is converted either into progesterone, DHEA, that is another stress hormone, and a precursor of to testosterone. When you are chronically stressed, you make more cortisol. It gets stolen from pregnenolone, and the other hormones levels may fail, a process called pregnenolone steal. But we are going to study in more depth this in other presentation, the consequences of hormone imbalance in our body, but you can sense already that it is not good at all. So, elevated cortisol, as you can see in the next slide, elevated cortisol is like a bad boss. It sits in the receptor's chair of other hormones and don't let them do their job. We have an example here in this game where the chairs are stolen. In this case, cortisol stole the chair receptor of the thyroid hormone. So we can expect that this person is going to have all the symptoms of hypothyroidism, where the thyroid gland is not working properly, it's low. Like, for example, constipation, fatigue, depression. But in reality, it's not a problem in the thyroid gland. It's the adrenal dysfunction, the one which is not allowing the thyroid to do its job. Do you remember when you go to a dermatology? We said to the patients, if we prescribe cortisone, if you have an eczema or a rash in the skin, do not use the cortisone more than 1 week. Why we said that? Because can atrophy the skin. Why? Because high cortisol, that is what can do in your body, can atrophy your skin, but also inside your organs. And the most important, your intestinal tract. So when we have all these stressors in our life that we just mentioned, that are so many, we are constantly living with the green light in the survival mode. And we are very, very far from digestion and healing mode. So, the cycle of weight gain. We have this high cortisol all the time. Given the role that the adrenal glands play in regulating stress response and the number of things that disrupt their action, it is easy to see how dysfunctional weight gain can become a vicious cycle. Here is how it plays out. Stress comes from depression, work, relationships, processed food, not sleeping well, the toxins in the environment. Then stress leads to dysfunction of the adrenal glands, raising the cortisol. Increased cortisol levels cause you to store abdominal fat, because during survival mode, your body holds onto every available calorie and converts it to visceral fat. So instead of your body using those calories to make you to have more energy and vitality, your body is using those calories to storage in fat. That's not good at all, right? The abdominal fat makes you crave sugar. We just mentioned how the high cortisol change your appetite. So it makes you want more sugar, fat, salts, or all the processed food. The abdominal fat makes even more cortisol by itself. And there is poor energy production because fuel is being stored instead of burned, leading to fatigue. So we have fatigue and health changes create depression. And depression causes more stress in our body, and these vicious cycles go on and on. So this is the reality. It is in survival mode. Your body holds on to every available calorie and will convert it to visceral fat. It is this fat that makes us predisposed to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, to cancer, and much more. We can be like this bear who is perhaps defending its cubs, just turning to our adrenals for an emergency and real danger. Or we can be like this bear hibernating. In the past, when humans faced famine, survival mode was helpful. They stored fat so they could survive. It was good. But today, we get triggered into survival mode by many things that are not really immediate danger. Thus, what used to help us survive is now the cause of our greatest threat. This is the circadian rhythm. What time you wake up and what time you feel sleepy are events carefully controlled by your adrenal glands. This timing is called circadian rhythm and is controlled by the light with the sun and the darkness during the night. You could imagine cortisol and melatonin as two hormones on a seesaw. When you wake up in the morning on your own, it is from a surge of cortisol that was released about an hour earlier. This release is like an internal coffee maker that is timed to be ready when you are up and about. When the cortisol surges, the melatonin production is stopped, and this surge gets activated by the light and the sun. Then, throughout the day, this cortisol has to decrease slowly. And in the evening, when you get tired, there's been a surge of melatonin that was started about 20 minutes earlier. The cortisol production starts being lower after lunchtime and is almost completely shut off by bedtime. When you are healthy and thriving, this allows the melatonin to take over. But melatonin only can be released when we are in completely darkness around 10 p.m. If we don't go to sleep early, that is not going to happen. The cortisol is going to continue to increase during the night instead of being low. So what is the importance of the cortisol slope? In a study in Britain that was run from 2002 to 2004, over 4,000 adults were evaluated for longevity factors including age, weight, gender, tobacco use, sleep habits, blood sugar levels, history of heart disease, and exercise. They were also given tests to see how steep their cortisol slopes were. and the results were fascinating. The strongest predictor of early death was the lack of a cortisol slope. It was a stronger predictor that even whether people smoke or how overweight they were. So we have this example who have an adrenal dysfunction. This patient, the fluctuations are not correct of cortisol. We can see the black lines of the graph represent the high and low range of cortisol. And we can see that this patient represented by the blue line is below normal. In the morning, when the patient should have an increase in cortisol, we can see that it is not enough to give this patient energy to start the day. Then at night, when it should be low, so the patient can have a deep sleep, we can see that there is a slight increase in cortisol. So we can understand why this patient has problem sleeping and detoxifying. So what can we do? By now, I think we have an idea of what we should do. But let's go over some concepts a little bit more. So the first thing first, right? Eat healthy food. What do we mean by healthy food? Whole food, real, homemade, free of pesticides, herbicides, organic food as much as you can so you can get rid of those toxins. Full of vegetables, whole grains, fruits. We talk about the sleep hygiene, right? Go to sleep early so your liver can detoxify your body and you can detoxify and clean your brain. It's really important. Get rid of toxins as much as you can. Replace plastic bottles and containers for BPA-free bottles and glass containers. Find a good countertop water filter that can eliminate contaminants in your drinking water, like heavy metals, chlorine, bacteria, plastic, and so many more. So this is really important to drink a clean water. Set schedules according to your hormones, to your circadian rhythm. It's very important to work with our body, with our hormones. They have their own schedule, so we need to work with them, not against them, okay? So wake up early. It says that we need to wake up before 8 a.m. So it's when the cortisol has its surge around 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Exposed to light first in the morning so you can activate the cortisol. We have been talking about how bad is cortisol, but it's not that bad. And we need cortisol, but we need the cortisol surge only in the morning. Then it has to decrease slowly throughout the day. So in the morning, we need it so we can have that energy to start the day. And these are the way that we can raise the cortisol in the morning, waking up early, exposed to light early, do exercise in the morning. Exercise raise your cortisol because exercise is a good stressor in our body. So it makes sense that increase the cortisol. So that's why when we do exercise, we need to do it in the morning where we need the high cortisol levels. No, in the night, not during the night. So another thing that increases the cortisol is a good breakfast. And it has to be between the hour you woke up, not late in the hour we woke up. That is when it's going to help with the cortisol. And also, eat every 4 to 6 hours. So you don't push your adrenals to balance your blood sugar levels, and you don't put your adrenals into survival mode. Eat a light dinner. Avoid blue light 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. Wear blue light blocking glasses. Avoid alcohol, sugar, coffee, because this one also raise cortisol. Coffee makes that your cortisol keeps running in your body for more time, longer than it needs. Okay, so that is very, very important. Do not exercise late at night. We just talked about that. And sleep in a dark and fresh place so you can have the surge of melatonin. So, in our daily living, we need to live in a digestion and healing mode. That is how it's supposed. That is how it's supposed to be. And turn off the survival mode. There is a quick way to turn off the survival mode, and this is through exercise breathing. So, we have the box breathing, also known as 4 square breathing. Involves inhaling for 4 seconds. Okay, we need to count 4. Then we hold our breath for 4 seconds. Then we do the exhaling to a count of 4. And we hold our breath for 4 seconds. So inhaling 4, hold for 4 seconds, exhaling 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That would be a cycle. Harvard study says that for 10 cycles, breathing every hour reduce 40% of stress. Amazing, right? I don't know of any prescription drug that can do this yet. Here's an example with a male patient that I had. He had 44 years old with a BMI of 37. That means that this patient has obesity. His initial blood pressure was in the beginning 1/400/80. And after only 10 breathing cycles, his blood pressure dropped to 118/80. Very cool, right? So another way to turn off the survival mode faster is the cold shower. The ideal way to take a cold shower is to ease into the habit. Start by slowly lowering the temperature at the end of an usual shower. Get the water cold enough that you start to feel uncomfortable. Then stay underneath the water for 2 to 3 minutes. In the book of Ministry of Healing, it says a quote that I love. Our artificial civilization is encouraging evils destructive of sound principles. Custom and fashion are at war with nature. The practices they enjoin and the indulgences they foster are steadily lessening both physical and mental strength and bringing upon the race an intolerable burden. And I can witness that this is true every day with my patients. We are the first generation of men to ever have been exposed to so many chemicals that silently bioaccumulate in our body. That is why medicine has to change. Our thinking and approach to medicine, to disease, has to change because this is real. And I hope this presentation today has been a blessing, and hopefully you can start today to implement some of these concepts learned. God bless you, and see you tomorrow for our second day.
Such a wonderful seminar. So much knowledge was given to us. Thank you, those of you who have been watching, and I hope that you were paying attention. And if you have some questions, I invite you to join us in the chat and share your questions with us. We have Dr. Vasquez here with us, who is willing and ready to answer all of our questions.
Yes, of course.
Dr. Vasquez, you mentioned obesity in your chat, and we are wondering if there's any other symptom that shows that our adrenal glands are not working well, other than being obese.
Obese. Yes, of course. There is a wide range of symptoms, signs and symptoms that a patient can feel. For example, fatigue. Okay. Fatigue, headaches. Some patients feel palpitations. Others have low blood pressure. It's very wide because the adrenal pass through several stages. It's like there is a level of stages. There is a level 1, and then level 2, then level 3. That level 1 is the stress, the stress that we live every day.
Okay.
But then that you, for example, this situation, you are nervous, you have palpitations, maybe you wanna go to the bathroom, is that maybe you have tremors, but it's momentaneous.
Okay.
It will pass after the stimulus of the stress. It will pass on their own. But then there is the wire and tire, that you are fatigued during the day. You are so exhausted
Constantly throughout the day.
Yeah, and then during the night you can sleep because you are thinking about all the things that you have to do the next day or during the day. And then when it's time to sleep, you cannot sleep. And that is the case of the patient, the graphic that I showed. The patient has the cortisol. The problem is that this patient is secreting the hormones, but not in the right time.
Right.
Okay, so during the day, this patient has to, everybody, we need the cortisol in the morning elevated so we can have that spike of energy. But then during the night, we don't need cortisol. And then when those change, is when we feel that.
Okay.
That during the day we don't have any energy, but then during the night we are exhausted. We don't have energy, but we can sleep because we are thinking about everything. We are worried, we have pain. It's okay. So then the next stage will be the crash stage.
Okay.
So even the name says what it is, right? We feel that we are crashing. We are not surviving. We are like surviving. We are not thriving anymore. So in this stage, your cortisol has been stimulated for so long that they are like a little sponges that you squeeze. Okay, I need hormones, I need cortisol, and then you squeeze. But for a long time, they get like they don't have more to produce. You don't have so much to produce cortisol.
They run out.
Yeah, they run out, kind of like. So you feel crushed. You feel that you can do anything. Then you have muscle pain. You can sleep during the night because you have pain. Okay, so then it goes the depression, overweight, because you are so exhausted that you can do an exercise, and that. There are several stages, and in that crash is when we feel dizzy when we stand up, or we have hypotension instead of hypertension, or low heart beat. So depends of the stages, it's gonna be the symptoms.
Okay. Wow, I wonder if any of you who are watching us feel identified with these descriptions, because I will be honest, I definitely do. And we tend to think, oh, this is normal, or say, oh, I stood up too quickly, or but God created us to be in his image, and I like how with this knowledge we're getting to find out, maybe the way we're living or the way we are feeling is not the way we should be feeling.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is that our body talks. Our body sends us signals that something is not good. So we can look for help.
Yeah.
But so many times we think that this is normal because everybody feels the same.
Yeah.
Everybody complains of fatigue. Everybody complains of stress, anxiety, and that we say, okay, I don't get to complain because he's like me or she's like me, and we don't know that is not normal because everybody has it. So we don't look for help. Maybe we go to the doctor and they say, oh, you are stressed, bye. And yeah, I know that I am stressed, but there is help,
right,
to be better, to help our adrenal glands. They are so little, but they do so much work in our favor that we forget about that gland, how important it is. We don't talk about that gland, but you can see that it runs all the show in our body, so we can thrive.
Yeah. As we mentioned in our introduction, Dr. Vasquez comes with a natural medicine and alternative and conventional medicine background, and so many times we may be going to our regular doctor and we don't hear these things. So if you're watching us, I hope you're taking note to be inspired to dig a little deeper from what we're used to. Dr. Vasquez, we talked about obesity, but what if someone who's watching is not obese and they cannot take this as a sign? Someone who's slim, do they process stress the same way, or does stress also collect in their bodies in the same way as body fat in the abdomen?
Yeah, of course. Stress can affect even slim people in the same way. The difference is that for the genetic, right, they have a better metabolism, but that doesn't mean that they don't accumulate visceral fat also. The thing is that they waste the muscle, and the muscle is replaced by fat.
Wow.
So many people that are slim, you can see that they have a heart attack, and you ask why this person had a heart attack. If this person is slim, and I have so many patients that they are slim, but they have diabetes, they already have a heart attack in the background. So you wonder why is this? And it's because of that, because of the genetic. These persons don't look. It looks like they are fine, but the thing is that cortisol levels waste our muscles, okay? And then it replaces them by fat, so we look the same, okay? But we need muscles. Through the muscle is that we can metabolize so many things, the blood sugar, and that's why these persons are slim, but they have diabetes and all the consequences that we talk about today, how important the glucose metabolism, the sugar, and so that's why. So we need to think, even if I am slim, I don't have problem with cortisol, or no. If you have diabetes and you have a heart attack, or maybe you don't have it yet, but you can feel all the symptoms of stress, your body is talking to you that you need to do something before it gets worse. So many times we just look for help because they're looking, right? I want to lose weight, but there is also an important part inside of our body, how we are in the inside. So even though we talk about obesity, slim people also have this problem.
Thank you for that answer. That I think that's crucial for us to understand. And again, we go back to listening to our bodies. Regardless of how we look, it's really how we feel. So I hope you took note of that. I definitely did. Dr. Vasquez, we have a question here regarding coffee and stress. You mentioned coffee in your seminar today, and we're curious, how can what is the effect, the real effect of coffee? Is it really that serious, or can I go get a decaf coffee, or I don't drink coffee but maybe matcha or chai? Like, how can we best listen to our bodies by paying attention at our habits of that I wake up and I get a cup of coffee?
Okay, as I talk during the presentation, the problem is that nowadays we have so many layers of stress everywhere, and when coffee is one of them. So if we can get rid of some of them, we are gonna be better, right? So the problem with coffee is that we already have problems, most of us, because of the stress that we are living today, also emotionally. We are living in the middle of pandemic, so many families separated, we can go to church, all of that, besides the toxic environment. So most of us has problem with the cortisol. Is already elevated in the time that doesn't have to be. So when we drink coffee, it keeps your cortisol longer than it needs. And remember that we need the cortisol only elevated in the morning. That's it. When we have for so long, cortisol weighs our muscles, damage our tissue, like I explained before with the cream, a topical cream of cortisone, right? That it atrophies the skin. It also atrophies our body. And we are going to talk about that in 2 days when we talk about the intestine, the gut, how cortisol affects our intestine. So we don't want cortisol keeping longer than it needs. And that is why coffee is a disruptor in our endocrine system. You see that stress is the same as hormones, right? So we need just in that time. The thing that we can do is to, instead of coffee, maybe you need something, you can drink green tea that doesn't have that much of caffeine.
What about black tea?
Black tea also have, but not that much as coffee. They have a theanine that they don't have the theophylline that increase the heart rate, and they have also a component that make you feel less stressed. So they have caffeine, but at the same time they have other things that balance a little bit. So it's a good transition. I don't recommend, now you drink a green tea and black tea, but it's better the green tea than black tea. But at least for the transitions, you can do that, because it gives you a little energy, but at the same time, it helps you to detoxify faster than coffee. Coffee is around like longer, and you don't want that. Okay, I understand now. So you said that we have so many layers of stress, and if we do drink caffeine, it's a layer of stress that we can easily remove to help us. Another layer of or toxin that can be added to our bodies, you mentioned the use of plastic containers or plastic water bottles. Is this only when I store it and I go to work and I use the microwave, or I have a ton at home? What do you recommend with this? It is always, it doesn't have to be warm in order to leach the plastic byproduct. For example, most of our food has fat, right? So fat is it makes to bleach the plastic. Even though it is in the refrigerator, it's cold,
It's absorbing.
It's absorbing because it's fat. So it's very dangerous because most of the oils that we use to cook, they are in a plastic bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So we are absorbing all of that plastic with that oil. So we need to be very careful to buy also if you buy oils to cook that is in a glass container.
Okay.
And most of us we don't realize of that, because these are endocrine disruptors, these plastic byproducts. Tomorrow we are going to talk about hormones deeper, and these plastic containers are they act like a hormone. Some of them act like a estrogen. They are called xenoestrogens, and they are more powerful than our estrogen. Okay, so it's very dangerous because estrogen is to grow cells. Okay, so if you have too much, you are gonna have breast cancer, uterine cancer. So we need to be very careful because these xenoestrogens that are from the plastic, they are more powerful than our estrogen. So they are very dangerous for cancer and all of that. So the thing is to be very careful to buy everything in glass container, and we buy glass container to store our food.
Okay.
If we buy something with plastic, it should say BPA free. Okay, that is the bisphenol A free. So not all the plastic are bad. What is so thin is more dangerous.
Okay.
But it's more
Thicker.
It means that doesn't have the bisphenol.
Okay.
Because the bisphenol is what makes the plastic to be like, how do you say?
Like flexible, like it bends.
Flexible. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So you see the Costco bottles, the water bottles, they are
Easily,
very thin. So those are very important to take into account because you can see nowadays so many men that have breasts, okay, and kids, and you say, why is this? That is not normal, even though it's normalizing nowadays because we see every man like this, but it's because so many toxins, and we don't realize we just use the plastic and all of that.
Okay, well, good to know. We're taking notes for sure. Dr. Vasquez, someone in our audience is asking if you recommend a CPAP for sleep apnea. If no, what do you recommend?
CPAP?
Yeah, those are the initials that I see here.
It's beyond our presentation today because it depends if the person have sleep apnea. Of course, the person needs that, but sometimes the position you have to talk with a professional because sometimes the position how you sleep can make it better, or there are some supplements. Maybe you have a nutrient deficiency in minerals or some vitamins that doesn't allow you to sleep well. Also, the overweight, it comes it adds some layers to the sleep apnea. So it's not that simple, the question. We need to look this person, you are overweight or you are slim. Do you have problem sleeping? Do you have hypertension? All of that.
Too many variables to take account right now.
But very quickly, you need the CPA, right? But if you want to work like looking for the root, we have to look all that. The overweight is crucial. There are so many people that they lose weight and they don't have more sleep apnea, right? So it's not like, oh no, you don't need. Yeah, you need why you don't do something to look in the root why you have this.
Okay, very important. Thank you. We've been talking about the layers of stress and many things that maybe someone can be feeling a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of information available.
Yeah.
And let's say that I know that I'm in this vicious cycle of gain weight, weight gaining, and I just want to break it. What's one practical step that I can start right now, today?
Okay. Yeah. Like we said always, right? Sleep. Sleep early. Sleeping it dominates our hormones. If we don't sleep well, we're not gonna have a good day in the morning. If we don't wake up good, we don't sleep good. It's a vicious cycle. So sometimes it's so easy to say have a good sleep, but then you go to sleep and you can't sleep. So there are so many things that we can do, but it depends. We are going to talk a little bit more. Every day we're going to add a little bit. And in the last day, we're going to talk about mental health.
Okay.
And insomnia and problems to sleep is very crucial for mental health. And sometimes it's related with nutrient deficiencies that we have. So, but there are so many herbs that can help. And also doing exercise early, no before sleeping. So many people think, oh, maybe if I do exercise, then I'm going to relax and I'm going to sleep deeper. And it's not like that. That's because exercise increases cortisol, okay? And it's good, but before bedtime is not good, cortisol elevated. So do exercise early until 2 p.m. is good.
Okay.
And then try to sleep better. But if you are stuck, right, that no, I can't, even if I go early, I can't sleep, you need professional help to figure out what is happening, what deficiencies do you have. So many times it's problem in the gut, in the intestine, and we need to support the adrenal. So it's a vicious cycle that most of the time we need like a help, extra help. But you see today so many advice that we can do in our home, like the breathing. And I have an app that you can look. It's called Inside Out Detox Challenge, and it's a good resource. It's free. You can find it in there is a link that it is in the app of the committee. There is a link that it leads you to the app. You can download it for free, and this app is gonna walk you through 15 days where you can have a diet. It's a gluten-free, dairy-free, because those are stressors also for our body. And if we are already stressed, that is gonna add more fuel to the fire. So the plant diet is good, and then we have all the recipes that you can follow. Also we have respiration breathing exercise for every day that you can follow. I explained today just a simple one, but we have in the app also that you can learn how to do this exercise breathing, because as you saw, it's very fast. You are nervous, for example, somebody with anxiety, you do that
right away,
and that person goes. It's very effective. Respiration is very, very effective. That's why we included that in the app, because if we just eat well but we are not most of the time we don't breathe well.
Right.
So we need the breathing good.
So besides being able to, make a personal appointment with you, you recommend some resources. Could you repeat, please, the name of this app for our audience?
It's called Inside Out Detox Challenge.
Okay, Inside Out Detox Challenge. And it's also available, the link right there in our in the app for the Gladstone Camp meeting under the seminar name. You'll be able to find it right there.
Yeah. And it's free. It's experience. It's like you have a coaching through 15 days that remind you to eat well, the meditation in the Word of God, then also remind you to drink water, then to do the breathing exercise, and it's a good resource to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we invite our audience to be able to check that out. It's for free. And Dr. Vasquez, thank you so much for sharing just snippets of your knowledge today. Today is not the only day that you're going to be with us, so we invite our audience to join us tomorrow at the same time. If anyone is watching, how can we prepare for tomorrow's message?
Yeah, tomorrow everybody's invited because even though it's a hormone map, a roadmap for balancing hormone for women, men has to hear this because our couple plays an important role in our lives. So there are so many things that men don't understand from women. Even we don't understand. So tomorrow is gonna be an open eye for us, for women, but also for men, so they can understand why my wife is acting like that, or half of the month she's well and then half of the month she has another temper and all of that. So both are invited, everybody.
Okay. Well, we hope that you will join us tomorrow, man and woman, to hear the message on hormones. So you will need the Well World app for the detox challenge. That's inside of the app. And again, Dr. Vasquez, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you tomorrow at the same time.